And then you may have heard the little birdie say recording in progress. We are recording tonight's meeting so that we can post this on the website and have it be a resource to folks who may have not been able to make it. A few other kind of logistical pieces. Please feel free to use the chat along the way to ask questions. We'll answer quick ones and kind of monitor that as we go. And then we'll pause at a couple of points to talk about anything that other folks might be interested in hearing answers. Our agenda for this evening, we are excited to just give you an overview of the Safety Action Plan project and what data and work has been done so far. And then in the second half of the meeting, we have an interactive activity to hear from you. Next slide. Pass it to you, Taylor.
Great, thank you. So as Bertrand mentioned, this project was funded by this grant, and the grant is called the SS4A grant, or Safe Streets and Roads for All. This is framed in what's called the safe system approach. Some of you may be familiar with it, some of you may not be. But really the basis behind this safe system approach is really a proactive and holistic strategy at eliminating, as Bertrand said, serious injuries and fatalities on roadways. It recognizes that humans make mistakes and that this whole purpose is that this will hopefully keep the impact energy on the human body at tolerable levels. So the key principles of this approach are that death and serious injury are unacceptable, that humans do make mistakes, that they're vulnerable. Responsibility is shared between road users, us as planners, engineers, policymakers, enforcement, everybody shares a responsibility, and that safety is proactive. So the whole basis behind this project is really a proactive rather than reactive approach to safety. So if you go to the next slide, our kind of roadmap image here of the key steps in the plan follow this more proactive approach to safety. So we're sort of in the step 3 phase of this project now. So when we kicked this off a couple of months ago, we wanted to start out with taking a look at the existing data, the existing inventory. As Bertrand mentioned, we were looking at where really those fatal and serious injury crashes were occurring, and Jonathan will present this a little bit later. What is the equity analysis? We appointed an advisory group, and that fed into determining what we're calling a high injury network. So locations on the roadway that have experienced more fatal and serious injuries than others, and trying to understand contextual data and those fatal and serious injury crashes. So what's the history behind the where and the why of those occurring? Then our prioritized piece really just starts to gather as much community input as we possibly can and really starts to hone in and identify some priority projects to then sort of feed into the end of the roadmap, which is funding. Then we get into, once we've developed our projects, how do we assess current plans and policies and guidelines that are in place here to identify potential new policies to fit within that safe system framework? And then identifying in the sort of the monitor phase, how are we going to track this moving forward? We don't want a plan that just sits on the shelf. So how do we look towards the future for this, and identify goals and actions that the city can really take to move forward? So that, in a nutshell, is our roadmap of the key steps in this plan, and we're moving along. So if you go to the next slide, this is our kind of draft schedule for where we're at in the plan. So as I mentioned, we've already kicked this off. and we're in the engagement and analysis phase. So in fall of this year, we want to really narrow in on our projects and policies and strategies. And then in winter to spring of next year, we'll be finalizing this plan and sharing it out. So getting into a little bit of vocabulary that I like to use because we have a lot of acronyms and terminologies in every aspect of the world. So if one of us says something, which I feel like I already did, just kind of understand where this is coming from. So when we call this plan a CSAP, we're really referring to a comprehensive safety action plan to reach those zero fatalities and serious injuries. We like to call these crashes or collisions and try to refrain from using the word accidents. This change is we're trying to reflect a more accurate and neutral description of the events. Accidents maybe could imply that it was unavoidable or random and it could overlook some contributing factors. So just overall, we're trying to use the terminology crashes or collisions. And then when we say KSI, which you'll see when we get into the data, we're really talking about killed or seriously injured crashes. Um, Systemic safety, as we've kind of been saying, is this applying the changes to a system based on risk and not just history. And then finally, our definition of vulnerable road user as we go through this is really pedestrians, bicyclists, or wheelchair users, people who aren't protected by a vehicle. So I think I will now pass it to Bertrand to talk about some safety efforts that Edmonds has taken so far. And I think you're muted, Bertrand.
Thank you. Thanks, Taylor. Yeah, so we've done some efforts over the last 2 years in various modes of transportation for some improvements. Starting off with the Highway 99 revitalization projects, which I'm sure most of you guys are pretty familiar with. We added a raised median along a 2.5 mile corridor. Previously, there was a two-way left turn lane, and it generated a lot of conflicts and many accidents. There was approximately 200 collisions per year along the corridor. And they came out, so it comes out to average it out on a daily basis. It was about one collision every 2 days, 2 or 3 days. Since the median has been added, it's reduced the collisions by more than half. So there's still a good number, but most of the collisions are at the intersection. So it's been a great project. Another project we did a couple years ago was the citywide bicycle improvement project. We basically added some bike lanes on both sides of 9th Avenue South from Walnut to 244th, as well as from Bedoin from 9th to 84th. So it's completing some missing bicycle lane links and in an effort to increase the number of bicycle users, whether it's commuters or people that are just on a recreational purpose as well. And then one of our big walkway project we did about 2 years ago was Elm Street from 8th to 9th. So that's also connecting some missing sidewalk links. And this was a project that was ranked pretty high in our previous transportation plan. In terms of ongoing annual projects or programs, sorry, so that means we do have annual budget for these 3 other programs. So the first one being the traffic calming program that's been in effect for more than 10 years in the city. We take a list of requests from residents. We issue a press release, and then we get a lot of requests for some speeding concern. They fill out a couple forms, and based on that, we evaluate all the different stretches. They've based on some criteria of some speed studies, and then we'll fund the top in the list. We obviously can't fund everything because we do have a limited amount of funding. Just as an example, for this year, we have approximately $80,000 in the budget for this program. So we'll be able to fund maybe the top two or three, and the ones that we did the last couple of years you guys are probably familiar with the speed tables on Olympic View Drive, and then also on 8th. So and then we just recently installed some tables on 96 between 220th and Bedoin White. Then you also have the pedestrian safety program, and that's to basically add some do some pedestrian improvements, flashing beacons or flashing LEDs at stop signs. Another big one is the overlay program, and that we have a budget of approximately 1 million to 1.5 million per year, and that's to improve the payment condition or reinstall some new pavement and then install some new ADA curb ramps. Then I'd like to turn it over to Taylor again.
Yep. And I think Jonathan's going to take this, take it away.
Thank you, Taylor. So I will walk you guys through some different charts. We reviewed data and we pulled out some key trends and some maps that were incorporated with this. So over the last 7 years, there have been 3,287 crashes, and 62 of those crashes resulted in serious injuries or deaths. I'll be saying KSI a lot throughout this presentation because this is something we really want to focus on, and those are the ones we want to prevent the most. This was all compiled from the Washington Department of Transportation E911 reports that were compiled for the last 7 years for 4 modes of transportation: vehicle only, pedestrians, bicyclists, and motorcyclists. Next slide. So one big trend that we've been seeing between 2018 and 2024, there's been actually a decrease in the total number of crashes, but unfortunately, there's been an 18% increase in the number of fatal and serious injuries. If you could see, 2018, 2019 was pretty high, and then with COVID and the pandemic, less people on the streets, less people walking, it went down, and then it has the yellow bar, which is a little bit hard to see, has been slowly increasing over the years. Next slide. So over here, we're focusing more on some key locations in the map. This shows the same kind of bar graph for the amount of crashes. Some of the key locations where the crashes are occurring are on SR 99, Edmonds Way, 76th Street, 119th, 196, 100, and 9th Ave, as well as a couple of the downtown streets like Main and Dayton. One thing to point out, if you could see the red symbols, those are KSIs in the map. There was a lot on SR 99. Like Bertrand said, they've been addressing this issue in the last couple years with some projects over there. And you can also see in the middle of the map for Esperance, we did not touch on that data, and this will be addressed in the upcoming Snohomish County CSAP. Next slide. So yeah, this is a little pie graph showing all crashes versus KSI. One really big mode by mode trend that we've been seeing is vulnerable road users account for 6% of all the crashes, but 62% of the KSI. So this is killed or seriously injured. Yeah, this is a very big trend that we're seeing, and I'll go into it a little bit more in the next slide. So over here, you can see this graph. One thing that's really striking is from 2022 to 2024, there's a greater amount of vulnerable road users, specifically pedestrian KSIs that are greater than vehicles. Some of these pedestrian locations are also on SR 99, downtown streets like Main and 5th, and 76 and 110th. And on the right, you can see how the KSIs are shown by different coloring. And then looking at the big picture, comparing this, oh, sorry, next slide. Comparing this to national nationwide and also Snohomish County. This is a trend that's been happening that's very similar to what's happening in Snohomish County. They've also, in the last 7 to 10 years, have seen KSIs increasing with collisions decreasing. And nationwide, there's been a 3% increase for vulnerable road user fatalities in the last 10 years. And among these, for statewide trends, sorry if we can go back a little bit, the state of Washington has continuously seen speeding being one of the causes, distracted driving, impairment, also more young drivers that are involved with collisions. The Washington State Target Zero Action Plan that was set in 2000 had a goal of 100% of 0% fatalities by the year of 2030. This was a very optimistic timeline and very ambitious. So there's been some advances, some setbacks, but the state is still, sadly, still experiencing an increase in fatalities. And out of the 327 incorporated cities and unincorporated county areas in Washington, of these, 148 have achieved 0 fatal crashes over the 5-year period of 2019 and 2023. Next slide. So this is some of the trends that we analyzed, kind of going over what vehicle action means. So this is what a vehicle movement is doing. Contributing circumstance would be what the actual driver was doing, and the other is kind of some key stats, contextual, like time of day, the lighting conditions, did it happen at an intersection or driveway. So some of the big ones we've seen is making a left turn. There's been a lot of intersection related KSIs. Driver distraction is also a big one. And yeah, next slide. And this is our high injury network that we've developed. Yeah, this was evaluating segments with the highest crash density weighted by crash severity. So we used a weighting that really accounts for serious injuries, killed or fatalities, minor injuries, and possible injuries. And on this map, you can really see where the corridors are in the city of Edmonds. And yeah, the HIN network is primarily on arterial roads with higher speed limits and really a big focus on the downtown commercial zones of Edmonds. And yeah, that's my part. I will pass it off to Alta for the area equity analysis.
Thank you. Yes, continuing on here, another aspect of our analysis, we're mapping Edmonds demographics to see where people live who may face unique transportation challenges and safety considerations. So this includes people from different races, income levels, ages, or whether folks may or may not own a car. And areas in darker blue that you can see on the map represent areas with higher percentages of these groups. So you can see dark concentration along the 99 corridor, and then other census tracts kind of interspersed throughout the city. Next slide, please. And this is important because 58% of those serious and fatal crashes are happening in these already overburdened census tracts. So basically, the people with the least resources are experiencing the most unsafe roads in the city. And so you can see the little flags on the map are those serious and fatal crashes, and that kind of interspersed with the darker blue areas illustrates, yeah, that Highway 99 area with a lot of those crashes that luckily, Bertrand mentioned the city's already been investing in infrastructure improvements along that corridor. And then some of the other kind of clusters that will likely be a focus of the project as it continues. Next slide, please. And then I want to just give a little bit of context for what the communication and engagement that's happened so far on the project, which I imagine many of you have already kind of seen us out and about or heard about the project through one of these means. But so far, we kicked things off in August and have had our online map and survey, which I'll link to in a moment if you haven't had a chance to take those. The survey asks about transportation needs and routines, and we want to hear about specific safety concerns, transportation safety concerns that you may have. And the map, it's like an interactive map where you're able to put pins to indicate where you have specific transportation safety concerns. And so far, we've had around 250 different points shared with us. So lots of great feedback there. It's going to be open for another couple of days. So if you haven't had a chance, or if you have more ideas, please go in there and let us know your top locations throughout the city. And then the last one, we've had a couple of events. We've been at the Saturday market a couple of times, concert in the park, and then a little pop-up table at the 99 branch grocery store, and have gotten a chance to just let people know this is happening and have some kind of quicker conversations about what people's safety needs are. Next slide. And then photo on the left is what that map looks like. Don't worry, you can zoom in and get to the street or intersection that you want to talk about. And then the photos on the right are of some of those pop-up events. We've got some boards and lots of info to share at those. Next slide. And then yeah, some of the common themes we've heard so far are just a lot of like support and enthusiasm for the mission of this project, trying to make sure that Edmonds streets feel safe for everyone. And we've had conversations about a more connected bike network and yeah, safer pedestrian crossings and more sidewalks in residential areas. And then definitely a theme related to distracted driving and speeding vehicles, and what more can be done to address those things. And yeah, we've heard from over 250 folks so far. So we're off to a good start. And if you haven't taken the survey, please do and share it with your friends. Help us get the word out. And that actually wraps up our like presentation portion of the project. So I'd love to pause here before we dive into our interactive activity here. If anybody has questions about what we're doing, any of the data that was shared, please feel free to put that in the chat, and Leela can read those out and let us know. We're happy to answer anything. Anything, Leela? I can't actually see the chat, I realized. Oh, Leela can. Okay.
No, nothing yet. But yeah, that'll stay open.
Okay, great. Well, we can keep going here. So as I mentioned, next up we have a little interactive. Oh, maybe I can see chats. Okay, we've got a couple questions. Love it. We've got one: shocked to hear that total collisions are down. Are we sure of that? Are some crashes not being reported?
Sorry, I was trying to unmute. I can take the lead on that, and maybe Bertrand, if you've got any other thoughts or ideas. I think that is a real interesting thing that we've been seeing statewide is collisions decreasing, but fatal and serious injuries increasing. I think there is a good likelihood of some of those minor small injuries or property damage only crashes not being reported, especially just given some of the climate right now. But I don't know, Bertrand, if you've heard anything specific from the police department.
That's about the same trend that we just mentioned. So I don't have anything to add to that. And one of the things I can say is in terms of the severity, I mean, yeah, we have noticed that there's definitely more speeding on our streets. So one of the ways we're trying to address that, obviously you have enforcement from the police department. And then another one is obviously our traffic calming program. So we're trying to address that. We're trying to we have a decent amount of, like I said before, our annual budget is pretty significant. It could always be more. But we're trying to address as much as possible. Since we have noticed, yeah, there's more, the severity of the accidents, it's increasing because yeah, there's more speeding. So trying to reduce those speeds as soon as possible for the motorists. And then you also have another thing which I didn't mention is we have the school zone. This is more for the in the school zones. We have the flashing beacons to try to reduce the speeds when the kids are coming to school, when they're leaving the school. And also, as you guys are probably well familiar, there's also a couple of school zone cameras we recently installed as well. In terms of adding more, so that there doesn't have to be a cop out there. It's just the cameras that are controlling that during that short period of time when kids are going to school and coming out of school. Thank you.
Yeah, and I will say just if you know of anything unreported or specific locations, that is a great way to use our web map that Katie mentioned, and noting that because we will be using that in our sort of location prioritization.
And the last edition is so there will be a traffic calming program next year. So what just Taylor just said, if you have on your stretch, you have some specific, not that it's related specifically to the safety action plan, but if there's a stretch where you live or there's a lot of speeding, you definitely forward that information to the police department so they can add potentially more enforcement when they have a chance, and then you can apply for next year's traffic calming program.
Great. I think we got to most of these questions. It sounds like to Mike's question about the best way to advocate for specific stream changes on a residential street, relatively minor but effective changes that can slow people down, protect people walking and biking. It sounds like, I mean, as we've kind of said, in the immediate sense, let us know about it for this project through that interactive map. But it sounds like in kind of a longer term sense, there will also be the traffic calming program and other opportunities outside of this project. Bertrand, was there anything you want to add specifically to that one?
That was it. Thank you.
Okay, great. And then, yes, Maureen, thank you for that specific comment. We'll definitely note that here, but be sure to put the locations on the map as well. So yeah, definitely thank you for being here. Appreciate your time. All right, let's jump into our interactive activity. So you can either do this on your phone, or if you're on a computer, you can do it on your computer. Go to menti.com and there'll be a spot you can put in the code here on the screen, the 734789755, or if you just scan the QR code, that'll set you up. And then there'll be a couple questions that we can answer together, and it'll display everyone's answers yeah, kind of cumulatively. So Leela will pull up our display here. Can work through those. Let us know, yeah, in the chat if you're having any issues with that. Type it into energy.com and the code 737. Cool. And yeah, Leela, I think you can go ahead and launch it. All right, so you should see the first question pop up and be able to answer that. As you hit kind of submit, your answers will populate here on our shared screen.
And Katie, there's someone with their hand raised and someone's
Oh.
asking about the login info. So you can see the login info right at the top there. But Margaret, do you have any problems accessing this?
Okay, looks like we're getting some answers here. So this first one, how frequently do you usually use the following transportation options to get places you need to go? I think just helps us kind of ground in who we have and kind of where people are coming from in terms of what your safety perspectives are. So just kind of get to know you question. It's got answers from about half the group. We'll give it another moment here. Great. So far, seeing a lot of folks drive their own vehicle. Very typical. That makes sense. Some fairly frequent walkers, folks taking the bus, no motorcyclists. Yeah, some kind of semi-frequent cyclists. All right. I think we can jump to the next one. Thank you. And then, yep, second question, how comfortable do you feel using the following means to get around Edmonds? So walking or rolling. So rolling being like if you use a wheelchair or other mobility device, that's what we mean by that. And then, yeah, if you bike around Edmonds, do you feel comfortable and safe? Do you feel totally uncomfortable and unsafe or somewhere in between? And then, yeah, driving, same deal. And feel free if as we're going, you want to like chat in comments about like you want to, add something to what you're voting on the screen. We'll like see that too and kind of add that into the discussion. All right. Yeah, we're we're have answers from most folks here. More comfort with driving and the least comfort and safety with biking and walking being somewhere in between. That definitely reflects what we're seeing in the survey so far and a lot of the conversations we've been having at the events with folks. Just knowing like the driving network is much more complete than the cycling network, and some of those gaps are really felt out there. All right, next one. So this one, in general, what are your top 2 safety concerns related to transportation infrastructure? So choosing, I imagine many of us would choose all of these, but for now, just pick 2. And if you want to comment in the chat, like kind of why or any other context, that's great. But some of the options we've got poorly maintained roads, sidewalks, pathways, bike lanes, so maintenance. Specifically narrow, broken, or missing sidewalks, difficulty getting around using a mobility device, difficult intersections or crossings, high posted speed limits, missing or uncomfortable bike lanes or pathways, connections between bike lanes or pathways, street lighting, and difficulty accessing transit. So these are all, yeah, related to infrastructure, and then we'll have kind of a programmatic question in a moment. Maureen, I see your comment here about speeders. I believe that's in the next question. So stay tuned for that one. This is more like what does the road look like? Like what's the sort of built environment of what sidewalks are there, what bike lanes are there. And then we kind of have a separate category that's like the more kind of education, behavior, enforcement side of things. Okay, so we've got a spread here. If anyone else wants to weigh in, be a tiebreaker for us, we've got a 3-way tie. So there's a few folks who haven't answered. If you want to weigh in and choose between poorly maintained roads, sidewalks, pathways, missing sidewalks, or high posted speed limits. Which actually, Maureen, if you want to vote for, I'm sure you did vote for high posted speed limits, that's definitely related to your concern about behavior. Okay, she did, don't worry. Thank you, Maureen, for your responsiveness. All right. Thank you very much. Steve, great question. The small group, luckily, these are the same questions that are in our survey. So we'll be able to add this in to the big trove of data that we're collecting. So we won't be making any big decisions based on your 11 perspectives, but we do really appreciate, that's why I think some of the contextual, like if you have any details you want to add, let us know. But we will be able to kind of pool this with the rest of the information that we're collecting in different ways. So next one, what are your top 2 safety concerns related to transportation behavior? So Maureen, as promised, lots of different options here, kind of related to speeding and how people are using the roads. And yes, we'll have a QR code directly to the survey in a couple of slides. And we can email it to the group too. Yeah, a lot of unanimous perspective here on driving too fast. That's, I think, really helpful for us to hear. I don't know if Taylor or Bertrand, do you guys want to kind of comment on speeding, or if there's any like data or anything folks should know about so far here?
Not specific data, but I mean, there's definitely it's been a concern that's been going on for many years, so it's definitely one of our top priorities. But I mean, like, you probably heard also from the mayor. I mean, traffic calming is one of his priority programs. So from the city's point of view, that's definitely one thing that we want to focus on. And like Katie said, that's something when we complete the safety action plan, we'll definitely look at that in much more detail in terms of how to identify projects or programs or enhance some programs to make that more people drive at lower speeds.
Yeah, and I would just be curious from this group, is it a specific type of street? Do you find it's more residential? Is it in downtown? Like, is it kind of a land use type thing? Or are you seeing this all throughout the city? I think this is going to really help us in our analysis and figure out where we should be focusing our attentions. Especially because this is such a small group, we can really get your thoughts on where you're seeing these.
Yep, hearing widespread and primarily a lack of enforcement.
'76 is very popular.
Like Bollinger Triangle area, thank you. So smaller arterials, but not as much downtown. Is that what you're saying, Margaret? Oh, when I say that out loud, not so much a problem downtown. Okay, got it.
Yes, just to touch on that a little bit. Obviously, downtown has got a lot. Margaret, I definitely agree. Downtown's got a lot more stop signs. There's not long stretches of uncontrolled intersection with stop signs or traffic lights. So yeah, definitely agree with that one. And that one for Maureen Ravel, actually 76. I think the stretch is we've gotten a couple of you guys have provided some petition forms the last couple of years in our traffic calming program. I think it's being evaluated right now. So we'll be following up with you on that one.
All right, thank you. Any other thoughts on this one before we move on? All right, sounds like we can jump to I think this is our last question here. So this one is level of support for these different safety strategies. So these are different things that might be in our plan that the city could do to address some of the concerns that we were just talking about. So reducing speed limits, making walking safer with different infrastructure improvements, support making biking safer, funding for educational programs for driver safety, automated enforcement, and designing our roadway and intersections to improve emergency vehicle response times. And so do you think about as you're answering these that some of these do have trade-offs, you know, like to make biking safer and to add that separation from vehicles, you might need to narrow travel lanes or remove parking. And sometimes those can be sticking points for people or yeah, we definitely want to hear if there are concerns about any of these specifically. Yeah, generally hearing a lot of support for most of these, particularly the enforcement and speeding reduction. That makes sense. Knowing what the top concerns of this group are, supporting making walking safer. Looks like it's our collective kind of highest level of support. So that's, yeah, great to hear. And yeah, if you want to put anything in the chat in terms of what your kind of questions or concerns or why you support these, it's definitely helpful for us. Okay, I think Maureen just came up with the tagline for our safety action plan. There's always pros and cons, but safety is the most important. That pretty much sums it up. We'll just put that, that'll be our subtitle. All right. I think that was the last question, Leela, is that right?
Yes, yeah.
All right, then we will jump back to our presentation, share a couple links to the survey and the map. And then I think Bertrand has a few points about where we're headed with the project. So just a moment here, we'll pull that slides back up and get everybody out of here on time. You can catch the last few rays of sunshine. Take your dog for a walk. That's what I need to do. He really is, he's ready. Yeah, Leela, you have the slides here. Great. Okay, this first one is the interactive map. You can scan the QR code or the direct website is on the bottom. This is also on the city's website. If you go and just like find the project page, it's on there. We can also email it out to this group. I think we have everybody's email addresses from registering for the Zoom. So we'll make sure you get this, share it with your friends and neighbors. It's super helpful, direct line to what we're going to be using to prioritize and choose projects. Next slide. And then the project survey, you'll see a lot of the same questions we talked through this evening. Please feel free to take this as well. Just helps us make sure we're getting your feedback. And you can also sign up for emailed project updates. We'll be letting people know as different like milestones happen, as we have recommendations, as we're sharing like the results of the survey. You can make sure to be in the loop as we move forward. And I'll pass it back to you, Bertrand.
Thanks, Katie. So this slide, yeah, it's just a next step wrap up for this presentation. As you can see in the box, we're in the engagement analysis, so we're on target, we're on schedule right now. looking to finish that in the next month or so, regards to all the analysis needs. The next step will be Fern Pierre is going to work on the policy strategy and the project identification. That'll be going on for give or take 4 to 5 months. So shoot us till the end of this year. And then basically the plan development will be sometime in December. And we should be all completed and finalized with CSAP sometime in the spring of 26. So we're about 3 months into the project. We got another probably 6 or 7 months till its completion. So we're really excited to making some good progress and completing a very good safety action plan. Next slide, please. So with that, actually, before I just wanted to, I saw a couple of questions. Since maybe I have 1 minute, I'll try to race through one of the questions. It was talking about what's our budget, and this came from Mike Cullen. What was the budget does Edmonds have for bike and pedestrian improvements? A lot of our bike and pedestrian improvements are pretty significant cost. So they're mainly we usually get a grant, and then we might have to do there's maybe a little local contribution, but yeah, the amounts are pretty significant. So we can't fund those 100% with local funds, but we do look for grants whenever one comes up for active transportation projects. Another one is the red light cameras. That's another one. We have installed a couple of red light cameras on Highway 99 and on SR 104 for the last couple, or the police department has installed those the last couple of months in order to enhance the safety at the intersections where there's a lot of there are also a lot of high collision and accidents or collision, sorry. So I really appreciate everyone's time. I'm putting my email address. So if you have any questions regarding, like Katie said, we'll follow up with an email with we'll have the presentation and links to the surveys and other items, and we'll keep you updated on as we move forward in the progress in the project. But if you have any questions on the safety action plan from now till spring of next year, please don't hesitate to send me an email. And also if you have like an actual specific transportation concerns or near where you live or that you experienced while you were driving, we'd love to hear from you, because obviously you guys drive a lot more than we do on our city streets. So it's great to hear from the residents on those items. And then the bottom link is a link to our city safety action plan website. So there's a lot more information. And then you also see there's a link to the schedule. So if the schedule were to change, you see updates on that website as well. With that, really appreciate everyone's time. Thanks to the project team. And then also thanks for everyone's participation. And then have a good rest of the evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Good night, everyone.